Yo, once again, it's on. Back at you one more again. Real Ken's TV and the House Like Kitchen Sinks. And before I get into today's video, y'all jump in the comment section. Let me know where you're chiming in from. I'm in Lexington, Kentucky. Let me know your city, your state, your hood, your set, whatever it may be that you represent. And let us know if you're the man or the woman that you say you be. You know, there's situations in life that somewhat difficult to speak on, but they must be talked about. The story that I bring you today is a story about 3 teenagers. Actually, it's about 6 teenagers. Ocklawaha, Florida. Ocklawaha, Florida. Shout out to everybody in Ocklawaha, Florida. Hope I'm pronouncing it right. To be totally honest, I've never heard of Ocklawaha, Florida a day in my life, but I've only been to Florida once in my life, soon to be twice. First 3 teenagers. Christopher Atkins. He's 12 years old. 12 years old. You have Robert Robinson, 17 years old. Then you have Taj Brenton, who was 16 years old. Now, at the time of this unfortunate occurrence, if you will, it's 2023. The 6 teenagers, they allegedly call themselves being in a neighborhood gang. It wasn't an established Crips, Bloods, Vice Lords, BDs. You see what I'm saying? M13. Like it was a neighborhood gang that was looking to establish themselves as an actual gang. You had the other 3 teenagers. Layla Silver-Nail, Michael Hodo Jr., and Camille Quarles. Allegedly, the 3 teenagers that I just named, they came up on a lick. And the reason that I'm specifically saying allegedly, because I wasn't there. I don't know all the intricacies of the case. I just know what I know. Allegedly, they came up on a lick. Some money. A large sum of money. The first 3 teenagers that I named, they wanted a piece of the action. They feel as though we're in a gang, we all look out for each other. They weren't trying to hear that. They weren't trying to split it up 6 ways. Apparently, they just wanted to keep it amongst themselves. Once again, allegedly. A plan was devised to get that money from the 3 other teenagers that I mentioned. They went in to rob them. And I always speak about how robberies never seem to go as planned. It's always one of those situations, and young people, I really, really implore you all to listen to me. Parents, if you have young kids or nephews, nieces, relatives, or whatever, I really, really encourage you all to show them this video. They went in to rob the other 3 teenagers just to get the money. That's it. All we wanted was the money. So you have individuals that will come up off the money, such as myself. You try to rob me here, man, take this money, man. I can always make some more money. They print it every day. But I can't make another life. So if I got 500 or 600, if I got 5,000 or 6,000 and you have a gun and you trying to rob me, it don't make me a tough guy trying to not give it up. You come to me and you have a weapon that could take me off the face of this earth. Here, man, take this little money, man. I get back. You win some, you lose some, but you live. You live in most situations. But as I mentioned, the robbery didn't go down according to plan, and one of the individuals got shot. One of the individuals that were being robbed got shot. after being shot. The breach of contract, the verbal contract that no one would get hurt. All of that's out the window. Then you have one of the teenagers. I believe it was Taj Britton. Guess what? We can't allow any witnesses to testify against us. Boom! The other teenager gets blasted. Then they blast the third teenager, all in the head. Hit him a couple more times, just to make sure that there's no witnesses left behind. 3 teenagers unalived 3 other teenagers that were all supposed to be friends in a gang together. See, there's no loyalty in the streets, youngsters. You may think, death before dishonor and, BOM, well, actually MOB, I'm sorry, let's rewind it. MOB, money over the B word. All the tattoos and, loyalty and, man, all of that's gone out the window, man. Didn't take long before the authorities realized who the suspects were. Brought them down to the headquarters. Got to interrogate them. Parents out there, or just not necessarily, you don't even have to be a parent. Like I said, it could be your niece, your nephew, your little brother, your sister. Imagine 12 years old was the youngest. So I'm referring to him as a teen, but in all actuality, he wasn't a teen. He was 12 years old. 12 years old. Involved in a triple homicide. 16-year-old. Involved in a triple homicide. A 17-year-old involved in a triple homicide. Deeply involved. Not just a getaway driver, not to say that that's any more, that's not good as, either. But it's not as though, okay, I just gave you the weapon, or, I just told you where the lick was at. No, you all were there, on the scene, deeply rooted. But my mind is just wrapped around this kid being 12 years old. Like I said, the police, they get him down to the police station. And all 3 are charged. Capital murder. Robbery. Those are the main things. Everything else, all the other charges they were charged with, they're not even in comparison to the capital murder and robbery charges. As one would imagine, they get to telling on each other. He did this, he did that. Nobody was supposed to get hurt. I was just supposed to be the driver. I was supposed to be the lookout guy. I didn't know what was going on. There was a whole bunch of that going on. I say this in a sensitive matter, because sometimes when I say things, people they get my words, they try to twist my words. I'm not even gonna say I get misconstrued. They try to twist my words. There's always gonna be somebody that's on here that says, "Now hold on, Kens, you said this. Are you making fun of the victims? Are you?" I've never made fun of any victims whatsoever, and I never will. There's nothing funny about it. There's nothing to laugh about. But I will speak my piece. I will speak my mind. And I don't know really what to think. I know that it's wrong. I know that I wish that it never happened. But at the same time, it's like these laws are made, but they can be adjusted and changed at any given moment, depending on who's prosecuting the case. I feel for the victims. I feel for the victims' families. Losing 3 kids, man. 3 kids. But on the flip side, it's like, if you're a teenager, and I tread lightly when I say this, if you're a teenager, what gives them the right to say, we're going to prosecute you as an adult? You see what I'm saying? Either you're an adult or you're not an adult. I understand that you can do adult acts. You're a teenager, you're 12 years old, you're 16 years old, you're 17 years old. But you had the wherewithal to know that what you were doing was not right. And we're going to charge you as an adult. I don't know how to feel about that. Y'all jump in the comment section and really help me, because I'm baffled at this point, because I don't know how to feel about that. I know that if you're not an adult, you can't go into the liquor store and buy liquor. I know that if you're an adult, you can't enlist. Now, when I say an adult, 21 over, in certain cases, 18. You can't enlist into the military. You can't go to the legal, weed dispensaries and buy weed. You can't go buy a firearm. So a lot of things you can't do until you're of age. But yet when there are certain crimes committed and you're not of age, these prosecutors have the ability to just go in and disregard the law, basically, or misconstrue the law, misinterpret the law. Not even misinterpret, because they know exactly what they're doing. And say, you know what? Even though your child was 12 years old, we're going to try your child as an adult. Because he did an adult action and he's going to be tried as an adult. There are certain rules in place for that. Like, for instance, in the state of Florida, if you are a teenager and you're tried as an adult, child tried as an adult, you can't get the death penalty. If you receive a life sentence, the most time that you can do is 25 years, and you must see the parole board at that point. But I still just go back to kids. Like, I understand that kids must be held accountable. I get that. But at 12, 16, and 17, locking them up, throwing away the key. But once again, you have 3 victims. And their parents and loved ones will never ever be able to hug and hold them, talk to them, hear their voices ever again in life. So I'm torn between the two, because I understand that there has to be there's consequences to your actions. There has to be justice. But like I mentioned, either you're a kid or you're not a kid. What gives a prosecutor the right to come in and say, you know what, you're 9 years old, but by God, we're going to charge you as an adult? What gives them the right to do that? Very, very conflicted about that situation. But nevertheless, it is what it is. And the 3 went on trial. Actually, you had the 12-year-old Christopher Atkins, who was 15 at the time, when the trial actually started or what have you. I guess he was held least liable. He gets 40 years penitentiary. 15 years old at this point, been locked up for 3 years, meaning he's going to do another 22 years and he has an opportunity at parole. If he's 15 now, does another 22 years, was I put him at 37? Let's just say he doesn't make parole, and I'm sure that Florida has some sort of good time. He's been locked up 25 years on a 40-year sentence. Let's just say he does another 10 years. 47 years old. Still has a shot, an opportunity at life. And that's just worst case scenario. He could get out before then. But you have the other two individuals that got life sentences. Now, life don't always mean life, but it's never good to have life. For instance, Robert Robinson, a teenager that was 17 at the time, is now 20. He got a life sentence, but he still goes up for parole after 25 years. Meaning that when he goes up for parole in another 22 years, he'll be 42 years old. Just because you go up for parole don't mean you're going to make parole, but you have an opportunity. Taj Brenton, who was 16 at the time, as I mentioned, who was 19 at the time of sentencing, he'll also go up for parole in 22 years. He'll be 41 years old. He received 3 life sentences. Well, Kens, what's the significance of 3? I mean, isn't one just as bad as 3 or 5? Or we have appeals, so that's why judges do that. Say you beat one of the life sentences, now you got to beat the other one. By chance, if you beat 2 life sentences, now you got to beat the other life sentence. And if you beat that, you got to beat all the rest of the time that came along with the life sentences. So you're in a situation where it's pretty safe to say you're never getting out of prison. You may get out of prison, but you're always going to be on some form of parole. You're going to have those life sentences hanging over your head. I'm sure that the jury, or the parole board rather, will have some sort of sympathy on these young men. But with the exception of the 12-year-old Christopher Atkins, these guys are going to do 40 plus. In my opinion, they're going to do 40, 50 years. And that's just my opinion. To the point to where 68, 69, 70 years old, we'll give them a shot at life again. They've been locked up 45, 50 years. You youngsters is out here in these streets, and some of you older dudes too, man. Because I don't put all the the blame or the everything off on the youngsters. You got older dudes. You literally have older dudes that are out here acting worse than a lot of the young dudes. Older dudes that haven't accepted the fact that they need to grow up and do something different. 40, 45 years old, still walking around with your pants sagging, still in the dope game. You still running around here chasing females as 19, 20 years old, 18 years old. Still having kids by different women, 3, 4 different babies' mamas. I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm not here to say what a person should and shouldn't do. But there comes a time to grow up. There comes a time to, when you're a child, you act as a child. But once you become an adult, once you become a man, a woman, you put away childish things. It says that in the Bible. Can y'all imagine having the latter end 40 years? I want y'all to really, really try to wrap your mind around having 40 years. Knowing that before you even remotely have a chance of getting out, you got to do 25. 25 in the paint. You heard me? 25 years. Now, when you think back 25 years ago, I can think back 25 years ago. Doesn't seem like it was that long ago. But it was. Y'all rock with me. You're in prison. Now all of a sudden you want to be on your best behavior. You done got your GED because you never had a chance to get a high school diploma. 15 years old. Certain states, I'm not sure how Florida is, but they'll send you to prison at 15, 16. Felice Johnson talks about it all the time. At 15, I think when he turned 16, he was in prison. 16, 17 years old at the most notorious prison in the state of Kentucky at the time, Eddyville. Actually, it's KSP, Kentucky State Penitentiary, aka Eddyville. '70s, '80s, '90s. Most notorious prison, home of death row. Imagine your kid at 15, 16 years old amongst grown men. Whole lot of graping going on, especially back then. Not exactly sure. I guess it just depends on what facility you're in, what state you're in. Maximum security. But once again, I don't want to come across as insensitive to the victims and the victims' family, because what about the victims that had to endure this horrific, heinous crimes and nightmare? Just imagine one of them ended up getting unalived in the back of his head. Executed. The terror, the fear that kid, that young child had to be experiencing at the time. I don't care anything about you live by the sword, you die by the sword when you're in gangs, things like that happen. While that may be true, these are kids, man. Just imagine the fear that they had to go through. So I'll never dismiss the victims, just what they had to go through. Do you take these 3 kids and just throw their lives away like that? Then I'm looking at the judge when he's sentencing these kids. I think that you have to have somewhat be heartless as a prosecutor and somewhat heartless as a judge. Because the judge, when he's reading off all the crimes and the sentences and determining what sentences to give these young men, in particular, Taj Brenton, he's just talking like it's normal. Yeah, count 1, we're going to run consecutive with count 2. Count 3 will be a life sentence, that is to run consecutive with count 4. Count 5, we're going to give them 96 months to be ran concurrent. Count 6 on the robbery would be 20 years, and he's just talking calm. But the thing about it, the judge don't care. You got a white judge. Yeah, I said it. You got a white judge and 3 black teenagers. Come from the hood. A lot of them probably didn't even have any father figures. Didn't have no money to hire an attorney. And your life is in the hands of this older white judge that can't even begin to remotely understand your life and where you came from. Now, I say this to say that. I say this to say this, rather. It's not trying to let these young men off the hook. They did horrific crimes, and there's a price that must be paid. I'm just simply painting the picture and pointing out what it is. It's just so unfortunate. When you're out here and you living your life, you must understand that when you run in these streets, understand that the company that you keep. I want you all to listen to me. I need y'all to share this video. If you never shared a video of mine, either you're going to share it or you're not going to share it. But the point that I'm making is these young men, these young women need to hear this. When you're doing these sort of crimes and you call yourself in a gang, a crew, a clique, or whatever, there's no such thing as loyalty. Everybody loves you when you're winning. Everybody loves you. See, you're a king when you're sitting on top. But you're a fool when you finally drop. Think about that. Anything pops off, jumps off, which it will. People's not trying to go to jail for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Why do you think that you have individuals that will be blatantly guilty? Prosecution, which they don't have to. They don't have to. Prosecutor, slam dunk case. You facing a life sentence. Easily gonna get a life sentence if it goes to trial. Prosecution offers you 25 years. But no, you don't want to take 25 years. You're 26, 27 years old, just for an example. State of Kentucky, they offer you 25 years. You got to do 85% of that time because it's a violent crime. Most time you can do to the parole board is before you see the parole board, rather, is 20 years. So even though y'all gave me 25 years, once I do 20, I'm eligible for parole. I've already been locked up for 3, so I do 17 more years. I'm 27 years old now. I'll see the parole board at 44 years old. By the time I see the parole board, because there are classes that you can take, so even though you do 85% of your time, 85% of 25 years is what? 21 years, somewhere right around in there. 21 years. You'll get out at 44, 45 years old. You're not on parole or anything, but you're thinking in your mind like, man, 25 years at 85%? I gotta do 20? But you already been locked up for 3. You've been locked up for 3. 17 more years. Oh man, they just gonna have to give it to me. They gonna have to give it to me. Well, like one of my attorneys told me before. She's hip. She's heard all the jail sayings. They just gonna have to give it to me. Guess what she told me? They will. They will, and won't cure anything about you. Won't cure anything about it. In their eyes, they just got another thug criminal off the streets. Y'all rock with me. Accountability. People don't want to take responsibility for their actions. So, box it up. Let's go to trial. Then you box it up and go to trial. And then people give you life plus 50. Life plus 20. Like my celly had when I was at Green River in 2013. I had a life sentence plus 20. You think they won't give it to you? You sadly mistaken. I can see you holding out, acting as though you're going to go to trial like I did. 3 state RICO charges. You think I was going to taking people to trial? Some dumb, but not plumb dumb. I'm going to act like I'm going to trial. And a day or two before trial or a week or so before trial, I'm going to try to get the lowest deal that I can get. Plea deal and plead out. Had to plead out to a 13 one time. And I already had X amount of years on the shelf, meaning that I was still on parole. I don't even remember how many years I had. I think I already had 11 years on the shelf. Had to plead out to 13 for a total of 24 years. Think I wanted to do that? No. But again, I was some dumb, but not plumb dumb. I ain't gonna take these people to trial. People offered me 13 years, and I caught 2 cases when I was out on parole. First case, then I got out on bond and ended up catching another case. I got a 13-year sentence out of all of that. Ended up doing maybe 3 years on the 13-year sentence, and then I was back home. I'm facing 20 to life. On some counterfeit, white collar, but I mean, I think they go harder on the white collar crimes. For us. You watch shows like American Greed and shows like that, and these white guys in suits, man, they swindle elderly people out of their last, however much money they have. They lose their houses, they lose their savings, end up in nursing homes, can't even afford to be in nursing homes because they trusted this individual. They done scammed for $84 million, and they get 7 years in the feds. But a fella such as myself, and not just me, and not to victimize myself, because I knew what I was doing when I did it, and that's what I signed up for. But there is a message. Y'all rock with me. Fella such as myself, come up on a couple $100,000. I ain't never scammed an individual, just banks, and I never went directly at an individual. It was always banks and the corporations that had a lot of money, but that was still wrong, and I hold myself accountable because I was wrong. $200,000-300,000 out the deal. I get the book thrown at me. We get the book thrown at us. But again, you can scam people out of hundreds of millions of dollars and get 6, 7, 8 years in the feds. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way that it works. Money talks. Knowing people, relationships means something. It's sad, but these young men are gonna have to learn the hard way. Grow up in the penitentiary system. And like I said, 65, 70 years old, with the exception of Christopher Atkins, they may have another opportunity at life. Again, put your 12 years old, your kid is crying, "Mom, I just want to come home. Dad, I hate it here. I just want to come home." Imagine that. You're the nurturer. You're the parent. You've always been there for your child. And some kids don't even have that. There's nothing you can do for your kid right now. Nothing. Sometimes people unfairly blame the parents. Sometimes it is the parents, but a lot of times it's not. 4-time loser, man. To the pen 3 times. I didn't have a father in the home, but guess what? I never used that as an excuse. I was raised very, very well. Played sports my whole life. Went to school, got decent grades. Loving family, whole lot of family support. Church every week. Church on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. Mama made me sing in the choir. Made me, I was just maybe volunteer in the community. I was raised very, very well. So when people say, "Oh, the parents," not always the parents, man. You can raise a child up to do right in life, but there's a certain point to where if a child, in my case as an adult, because that's when I started to, run into Johnny Law as an adult. I didn't get in trouble as a teenager. It had nothing to do with my upbringing or my mother. It was me. It was all my decision, what I chose to do. See, to me, it's a little bit of luck, because you have a lot of parents that raise their kids to do right, but they veer off and make a horrific mistake and find themselves in prison for the rest of their lives, or the better part of their lives. So I think that there's a little bit of luck involved in there just as well. Some people have kids that just not going to do that. They're not going to get involved in anything, but that don't mean that you raised them any better than the parent that their child did decide to do this one night with a group of friends or whatever, and it turned out to be just the worst mistake that could ever be made, man. Praying for the victims again, the families. Praying for the 3 teenagers, which at this point, one's 15, as I mentioned, one is 20, so he's technically not a teenager, one's 19. Young men. Hope that they can turn their lives around and realize that what they did is not to be tolerated. Society would not tolerate this sort of behavior. You got these RICOs. Everybody is getting hit with the RICO now. If it's more than 1-2 people in some sort of a crime or whatever, the RICO's coming, man. RICO's coming for that ass. Pause. Double pause. Be mindful. Stay in school, kids. If you don't like school, I get it. School's not for everybody, but get you a trade. Find out something that everybody likes to do something. Something that you want to do. Even if you want to be a rapper, or a lot of people want to be rappers, okay, pursue your career, but at the same time, while you pursuing that, learn to do something else, because you never know. The rapping thing may not work out. Rapping, making it big and rapping, first of all, it's dangerous, for one. For two, making it big is like going to the pros in sports. Many are chosen, but only many aspire, but only very few are chosen. You want to be a rapper? Don't just be a rapper. Learn how to write music. Learn how to make beats. Learn how to DJ. Learn the intricacies, the ins and outs of the record business. Learn how to get behind the camera, work a camera, edit. Make yourself multi-dimensional instead of just being solely a rapper. Other individuals that don't want to be a rapper or whatever, just don't like school, get you a trade, man. You go electrician, plumbers, welding, carpentry. Learn how to build houses. Learn how to cut hair. Learn how to do something with your hands that you will always and master that. And you'll always be in demand. People will always need you. Just running the streets, carrying pistols, toting pistols, thugging on the corners. Well, they ain't really thugging on the corners no more, but trapping off your phone. Penitentiary or death. And it's imminent. Real Kids TV. Hopefully you like the video. Feel free to comment. Definitely share. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. And be sure to hit that post notification. So anytime I bring you this action and this heat, guess what? You're amongst the first to receive. Real Kids TV.